Imagine a city where the world's smartest people gathered to code the first languages, perform the first plastic surgeries, and write the rules of global economics. Now, imagine that city being burned to the ground, wiping out 1,000 years of human progress in a single week. This is the mystery of the lost knowledge of Takshashila.
700 years before the Common Era, while most of the world was just learning to farm, there was a city that operated like a futuristic think tank. This was Takshashila. But you didn't just walk in. Imagine a university with an entrance exam so brutal that 70% of applicants were rejected at the front door. These weren't just security guards. They were the Dwarapalas, highly intellectual gatekeepers who interviewed every student. If you couldn't prove your mental worth at the gate, you were turned back. Takshashila was the world's first elite screening process, a Silicon Valley of the ancient world that gathered 10,000 of the brightest minds from Greece, Persia, and China. It wasn't about a degree. It was about joining a global brain trust.
This is where language became code. A scholar named Panini lived here and wrote the Ashtadhyayi. To a historian, it's a grammar book. To a computer scientist, it's the world's first programming language. Panini developed a system of 4,000 rules, compact, modular, and logical, that could generate every valid word in Sanskrit. It was a generative engine designed 2,500 years before the computer was even a dream. Today's AI researchers and linguists study his work because it's functionally identical to the logic used in modern coding. Takshashila didn't just teach language. They taught the logic of the universe. We're talking about an ancient operating system that shaped how we think about data today.
Step into the medical wing of the university, and things get even more intense. This is the home of Sushruta, the man who was performing plastic surgery while the rest of the world was still using leeches. We're talking 121 unique surgical tools, scalpels so sharp they could split a human hair. Using these, Sushruta performed rhinoplasty, cataract removals, and even brain surgeries. But here's the Era Lens mystery. How did they manage anesthesia and sterilization in 600 BCE? They used specific herbal compounds and smoke-based antiseptics that modern medicine is only now beginning to validate. It was a peak of bio-ancient tech that seems impossible for its time.
Takshashila wasn't just a place for monks and doctors. It was a school for deep state operators. This is where Chanakya, the master of statecraft, wrote the Arthashastra. Forget everything you know about ancient politics. This was a manual for data-driven governance. Chanakya taught kings how to manage economies, manage spy networks, and use silent war to defeat enemies without firing a single arrow. It was the first intelligence agency training ground. He viewed the kingdom as a machine and the king as its operator. At Takshashila, power wasn't inherited, it was engineered.
Then, in the 5th century, the lights went out. The Huna invasion didn't just target the city. They targeted the knowledge. They set the massive libraries on fire, a blaze so big that the smoke was reportedly visible for miles. This wasn't just a war, it was an information genocide. Centuries of medical cures, mathematical formulas, and scientific breakthroughs were erased in a single week. We aren't just looking at ruins, we're looking at an intellectual black hole. What would the world look like today if Takshashila's libraries hadn't burned? In 2026, researchers are still hunting for the lost scrolls in the mountains of Tibet and China. The hunt for the world's lost knowledge is still on.